Okay, good morning, everyone. I think while this Tuesday's webinar, which has been happening now for almost 25 weeks, have been happening on a trot, I personally did take a break because my other colleagues have been running this, so it's good to be back on this platform after maybe 4 or 5 weeks. I think the agenda for us remains putting India back to work. But I think, of course, we have entered a different phase of the journey. I think we've woken up today to the frontline, quite shocking news of how the GDP has shrunk by 24% from April to June. And I think amongst all the pandemic hit countries, I'm giving to understand that we are probably one of the worst hit. And I think, well, I mean, it is what it is. However, I think I keep reminding myself the Oscar Wilde quote, which is also incidentally my favorite, which says that we are all in the gutter, just as some of us are looking up at the stars. So I think we just have to build ourselves from here. We have to remain optimistic about the future against all adversities and do whatever best we can in our different organizations to bring back the momentum. And I think progress follows momentum thereon. So I do have an interesting panel, which is a mixed bag of experiences coming through. So I have Niyathi, who is Director HR of Premier Energies. And essentially Premier Energies is into alternative energy sources. I have Manan Sharma, who is Director and Country Head of HR of Blaize, a cutting edge technology company, which is essentially using AI to help individuals, countries at some point make intelligent decisions. Madhura, who is regional business HR lead for the Eastern region for CG Power and Industrial Solution. I have Garima, who's head HR of Cytecare Cancer Hospital. So I think we have a very interesting mix of experts who've joined us today to kind of help us understand some of the nagging questions which are there, which we are all confronted with in our different organizations. And this purpose of the session, it is has always been about learning from each other. I think we would lean on them to kind of figure out what's going on, what are their thoughts, and how they can guide us into the future. So without taking much time, I think I will start with Niyathi. I'll start with you. And essentially my first question to you is that, I mean, while there is an attempt being made by different companies, organizations to kind of get back their mojo, resume businesses. Everyone's focus obviously is putting India back to work, but we do understand that it's easier said than done. And I'm sure there are challenges that are being faced. My question to you would be that how are you assessing the current situation? And how are you trying to infuse confidence in employees? How as a business you're looking at getting back into the same rhythm which were at the pre-COVID level, while I understand that revenues will take time to kind of trickle in. What kinds of measures, whether it's in terms of communications, protocols, whether it's in terms of any kind of special work from home policies or work from back to office policies that you've come out with. So just share your overviews, and I'm going to ask the same question to all the speakers thereon, one after the others, and hence you just get a little more time. And Niyathi is in the hot seat right now. Over to you, Niyathi.
Thank you so much, Ritu, for that introduction. Hello, everyone, and hello, attendees as well. I represent an organization called Premier Energies. We are almost a 2-decade-old organization in the renewable energy space, having manufacturing capabilities of almost 500 megawatt of solar modules. And we also move into projects with EPC and independent power producer as well. So, spearheading HR for a large manufacturing organization is definitely one of the key challenges because of the workforce that is associated with this mammoth organization. And it's a known truth that COVID has displaced us, all of us. It has fundamentally changed the way we live and the way we work. Coming to very, very specific to do things that we did at Premier Energies to kind of combat this battle together. I think first and foremost, you hit the nail on the head, Ritu. There can be never enough of communication. Communication to reinforce that coming back to work is safe enough. And how do you do that? First is, of course, modeling from the leadership team itself. The leadership team taking turns to be in office, that itself is a huge, eye opener for folks who are looking at it. That's step one. Step two is constant communication, open communication, either from the HR's desk or from the CEO's desk or any of the leadership team's desk, saying that, hey, it's okay. The office is safe enough for you to come back and resume work. The third most important thing, again, it's a known truth. Sometimes, or rather, most of us have kind of rejigged our business deliverables, right? Business is definitely not as usual. What it was pre-COVID, and hence how do we rejig that and communicate those new goals, new deliverables to your organization? That's one part of it, which comes under communication. The second thing is, there's something that is tangible, which your folks can see. One thing is we made sure that every single employee had a medical insurance cover, activated all our insurance guys, made sure that none of our policies were expiring, made sure that we took a top-up policy to kind of, look at any emergencies that might come up. That was the second most important thing. Third most is, getting the office space ready. We are a traditional organization. I've heard from one of you saying that, how do you do this? We are not a technology organization who knows the rhythm of, picking up work from home. We're a traditionalist organization, and hence how do you reinforce that, getting people back to work? How do you then have your rosters ready, saying that, okay, can we do an alternate work arrangement? Who are your critical work staff who needs to come in? Your factory needs to open. So what are the steps that you can take to make sure that the factory is safe? Right from having a COVID response team, having a display of all the COVID protocols that are needed, having medical numbers handy, and also knowing that what to do if somebody is literally down with COVID. Do you then, sanitize the entire office, having that protocol listed down and people are made aware of it. I think these are some of the very tangible things that we've done. I'm sure most of the other organizations also have done the same thing. But the difference is each organization has a way of recovering or way of responding to this, pandemic. And there's nothing which is set in stone, which says that something which works for me, which will definitely work for the other organization too. But can we find a rhythm in how we are doing things? Definitely we are. We are kind of getting to that stage where we're getting comfortable being in this new normal, if I should say that.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I think before we move to the next panelist, I would urge all the participants that I know while you start hearing the experts, a lot of questions will keep popping up in your mind. What I would recommend you do is there is a Q&A tab. Why don't you just keep writing those questions in the Q&A tab so that we can, some of your questions might get answers during the course of the conversation, but in case they don't, towards the end, we will pick some of these questions. So great. Now, thanks so much, Niyathi, for doing the honors of being the first person to open today's discussion. Manan, I'll bring you in here. Sure. You represent, again, a very distinct organization, and I'm sure the participants would like to hear a little bit about yourself and your organization. And thereon, how has been your experience? Same question which I asked Niyathi, that I'm sure it's been challenging, but as a technology company, it might have also become an opportunity for you. Nonetheless, what's been your experience, and what are some of the stuff that you've undertaken, some practices which were not there in the past that you've brought in just to tide through the present times?
Sure. Thanks for bringing me in, Ritu. So I have about 15 years of experience in the human resource domain, technology, mostly semiconductors. I currently work with a company called Blaize. Blaize is one of the few industrial leaders in terms of having created a product in the artificial intelligence space, which works on the edge, that is at the bleeding edge where it is needed. Coming to a question, I would split it into two parts. I think a pandemic which has been at the scale of COVID. I mean, this is a black swan event for most of us. We haven't seen the likes of it in our lives, at least. Okay, as a workforce, we have tried to cope with it to the extent possible, and I will say that the IT product industry has been better positioned of all the domains and of all the verticals. Largely because in product companies, you will see that there's a cultural aspect that focuses on work getting delivered. Your geolocation while delivering that work is not important as long as the lab equipment is not needed. Okay. So I would say amongst all the companies that I am in touch with, the IT product, not services, by the way, let me be very, very clear on that. The IT product sector has been up for the challenge. They did not have to scuttle at the last minute to get laptops for their workforce or VPN connections or ensuring that their employees were getting reimbursed for the extra bandwidth. Everything was made. What was not made was the long-term view of the situation. So in the short term, we had the hustle, we got together and we knew that we could make it work. By the way, one of the most critical deliveries in our entire lifeline happened during this COVID period. And it happened with a success that has been unmatched in the semiconductor domain. Proof that it can be done. The long-term view of the situation has been that you enjoy your workplace only so much, more so if it is at home. Okay, working from home and working at home is getting mixed up all the time. There are no boundaries. Okay, in the long run, you are having scenarios of burnout that you need to address. How does an employee disengage? 8 p.m. is kosher for me to get on a call. An engineer also is likely to do that because there are US teams operating. How do we draw that line? Okay, how do we create that atmosphere to disengage? And for a company that has been located in multiple geolocations at the same time, you cannot disengage in bits and pieces. You have to disengage en masse. Because if the India office were to disengage and the US and UK offices were to be working, there would still be that inflow of work. So trying to get everyone's consensus was important. I think we did that, and we have been successful in being able to create that space. Number two, wellness as a concept has jumped in the last, there has been a paradigm shift in wellness, in the concept of wellness, the way it was understood 6 months back and the way it is understood now. Wellness in that earlier period was that do you have enough sick leaves available? And if there is a sick leave, does the employee come back and feel productive soon? Wellness today includes the broad definition of presenteeism. We have all heard about absenteeism, but what if an employee is present in the office but mentally not there because there are other burdens that they have to take care of, financial burdens for that matter. Okay. So a more holistic approach to wellness has emerged. We are talking about the physical, mental, and financial plane here, all three at the same time. Some of it has been addressed by bringing in top-up covers. Some of it has been addressed by creating enough monetary help to ensure that there's a work from home setup which is functional. Some of it has gone into creating a corporate buffer. Some of it has gone into wellness programs, be it immunity builder programs, be it programs that allow people to express themselves and engage with their teammates. We had a virtual all hands last week. It was a raging success. So the time has actually asked us to start thinking and wearing a hat that was very restrictive earlier. Now, for our survival, it is pertinent that we put this hat on, like a dose, like a bitter dose at times. But again, whether the dose is bitter or sweet depends on what is the context in which you are working. We have talked about the traditional organizations. We have talked about the cutting edge technology organizations also. And I think the transition has been smoother for the latter as compared to the former.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manan. Manan is, I mean, you are in an envious spot, given that you work for a product company, I shouldn't say services. You work, you're one of the beneficiaries of COVID. And I wouldn't say beneficiaries, it's just the business model is such that it is unlikely to, from a business perspective, get majorly impacted. It is a great spot to be in. I'm sure it has its own challenges because suddenly employees must have felt like suddenly the idea of that I can't go to an office. From a choice, it became an imposition. That itself causes a lot of stress, right? So I understand that. Great. Let me bring you in, Madhura. What's your perspective?
Okay, thanks, Rituparna. So my name is Madhura Chowdhury. A big hello to all of you. I work for CG Power and Industrial Solutions Limited. We were used to be known as Crompton Greaves. We are like an almost pre-independence company. We are an electrical manufacturing pioneer. Our company produces all B2B products currently, like transformers, switchgears, lightning arresters, motors, drives and automation, railway signaling. So we are into all heavy duty electrical manufacturing. We are a very traditional manufacturing company with a pan-India presence with MNC and with an MNC status. We have offices and like factories outside India as well. So the outbreak of coronavirus has fundamentally shaken up the business landscape and changed the way we work. While we were preparing for a digital future, the COVID-19 basically accelerated the transformation at an unprecedented speed. Although it cannot be foreseen when all of this would be over, but whenever it happens, commuting to office, interacting face-to-face with our co-workers may not be the same. Your question on confidence is, I personally feel it comes with action. Confidence can come only with action, employees knowing that you're taken care of, knowing that the management is basically on work mode. So the answer to your question, I would like to highlight around 3 points. The first point would be that in this pandemic era, the HR function has evolved and doubled into an EHS enabler, overlooking the basic hygiene of workplace like deep sanitization, imposing social distancing norms, educating employees on the do's and don'ts of the new normal, digital tracking of health status. I think these we all have done. The other extremely important thing that we implemented was being very sensitive to any emotional distress, tracking on extreme mental and physical support of the employees was something being done. In fact, this pandemic has in fact increased and expanded the employer's role as a social safety net for their employees. And the communication promoting dialogues is now of paramount importance. The second point I would like to mention is that enabling and empowering employees to adapt to such rapid change was the key to sustenance. Giving just a laptop is not enough. You have to not assume. You have to not assume that they are okay with the virtual settings. You have to provide information and educate them. This is basically very much valid for a company like ours, which had zero work from home culture. And the final point that I would like to mention is that with these kind of high level of uncertainties, it is very obvious for managers and employees to become very risk averse. There is a natural tendency of employees for during this disruptive times to be afraid to try something new. But CG as an organization welcomed innovation. I'll just give you a very small example is that We are a company which employs mostly electrical engineers. So we use their skills. And what they did was they developed with the in-house materials that was there. They developed a sensory controlled sanitizer dispensing machine, which was used like for pan-India offices. It saved cost. We did not pay a single penny. It was developed in-house like over a week's time. So these are the things that provided flexibility and support to instill a resilient approach to the current adverse situation. We compromised on efficiency because rigid process flows to require efficiency. We wanted a resilient approach, and that is how we dealt with the situation.
Excellent. I think my learning from what you just shared about how you kind of leveraged the skills of your own engineers to come out with indigenous tools, sanitization tools. For me, the learning is that this is a great way to engage your employees
Exactly.
Towards a common cause, right?
Exactly.
Feel that they have added value beyond their job description, which I
Definitely.
thought really, really good. Great learning. Yes, Garima, now I'd like to get you in. You've heard all of them. Tell us about, I mean, you are running a cancer hospital.
Right.
And COVID period was a time where people were averse and scared to walk into any kind of hospital. Yours is a super specialized hospital, and hence, how did life change, or it didn't change at all for you?
So yes, the life has definitely changed. Hi everybody, my name is Garima. I represent Cytecare Cancer Hospital. I'm the head of HR for Cytecare Cancer Hospital. In totality, I have 15 years of experience as an HR. And last 10 years, I'm working for hospital industry. Now, for us, yes, definitely there's no option of coming back to the work. We was always working. The challenge was how to continue working. And what was happening the time the COVID have started in the month of March and April, every day something new was happening. You know, every day new guidelines are coming, the WHO protocols are coming, new quarantine rules are coming, the systems are changing. So every day there's something new was happening, and you being a senior leadership team required to be get updated, get the clarity, and then pass it on to the team. There is also a scarcity in among the junior staff. They are themselves are very afraid while coming on the duty because they are the one who have to deal with the patients. So how to build up that confidence was the most challenging task, and how to get them work was the most challenging task for each of us. What worked for us was the continuous communications, being available to them, providing all the necessary tools. So, we have designed all role-based PPEs. So in the hospitals also, we have a different kind of role. Some are the patient-facing roles, some are the non-patient-facing roles. So every role requires a different set of tools and personal protective equipments, providing them, not only providing them, providing the training, how to use them in an effective manner so that they don't get infected. What we did it for hospital, we was having no option to shut down or the lockdown. And initially the quarantine rule was that if any of the member got infected, the primary contact will be quarantined. So for us, the challenge was how to protect the situation. We cannot have no show, right? So if one team member, if one of the specialty is getting infected, we cannot just say, no, we are not working today. So what we did, we divided our team into two parts, team A and team B. So 1 week, one team used to work, another team used to work. So we did a risk mitigation plan, and every department have those set of planning, that there is always a backup team available. Line managers have given you absolute freedom to design their own departmental rota. They've given absolute freedom, the way you want to plan your shift, the way you want to work, the way you want to design one person, another person, do that. Just keep the management informed about it. The only requirement is that it should not be unmanned. And the team did a fabulous job that till time we did not get any situation when we have a no-show or we have to shut down a particular department. continuous training and, on terms of social distancing, infrastructural changes. So in an hospital, the most sensitive area is the cafeteria, because everywhere you are into complete PPEs. So you have you have mask, you have face shield and everything. But when you go for a eating, you don't have that. You have to remove it. So this is the most challenging area for us. So we have created a social distancing into our cafeteria. We have opened up our terraces, one person in one seat and all that. So small initiative, but ensure that the social distancing is also maintained within the hospital. uh, Transport was provided because getting the people on the work during the lockdown was difficult, and also we don't want our people to get exposed to the public transport and all that. So transport facility was extended to the staff. As we work on the flexible shift timing, so if the staff is working extended shift and they're working extra, meals on duty was provided. um, Many of our staff works, if you know the industry, the nurses are basically from the outstation, they are from the Kerala and all that. The extended PG facilities was provided to them. Not only we have maintained the complete hygienic and infection control practices in the hospital, we have also ensured that where they are staying and how the infection control practices are there, so that the parents get the confidence that yes, their people are safe with us. Because that's this common thing which we have realized, that at the initial stage, employee was getting scared and they just want to go back. So ensuring that yes, you are safe, you're working in a safe environment was very much important for us. So all these things which starting at the starting, we have taken care of it.
Yeah, you had a very challenging job, to be honest, because
Yeah.
many of us could make use of the lockdown and stay at home, but your teams, your team members, employees, your hospital needed to continue functioning. So I know it must have been it must have been quite a task, to be honest. So, and
It
congratulations.
was a task, every day the new situation was coming, and we was just doing brainstorming that how to, do it and how to get the teamwork and everybody. It's not only the team. On the patient side, there was a lot of things. Patient was not able to come. So home consultation was started. Teleconsultation was in India is never accepted. But during the lockdown, it's the most, acceptable thing. So many of the hospital turns to the teleconsultation. Now, then the technology team have the role to play, how to create that interface between the patient and the doctor. So a lot of things was happening. I think it was the most challenging time, but yes, team have done really good job, and everybody was into it. Everybody was engaged, and they was working together. So yes, I have a very different experience of last 6 months.
Of course, I mean, each one of us, we were all in the same storm, but not in the same boat.
Right.
Okay, so given this is I'm about to enter out of syllabus territory, because I suddenly realized that 4 of the panelists today are women. Obviously, we got our diversity equation completely wrong today. But that's why I would like to ask a question, which is a diversity question. And Manan, I want to start with you because you represent the technology sector. And hence your response obviously could be very different from the responses I hear from the others. And that's why I'm going to tweak the question to you, and I might change the question for the others. Question to you is that now with this growing acceptance of work from home, from what I gather that even before COVID, the technology sector did not have more than 15% adoption of work from home, even the technology sector. I mean, right. It's supposed to have been the most advanced in terms of their preparedness for something like this. Did not have more than 15% work from home. Now, with the fact that so many companies are coming up and saying, especially in technology, that we'll have permanent work from home, or we'll have at least 60% work from home. I mean, all kinds of news are coming out. Yeah. Do you think that this is an opportunity now for women to kind of get back into the workforce? Absolutely. And hence, would you think technology sector would be now more open to having more women, especially at the middle level. That's where the dropout earlier used to happen the most. So what are your thoughts? But is it going to be an opportunity for women, or do you think it's going to be a challenge? Because a lot of people are already debating about the possible challenges that might emanate because of this arrangement, work from home. Right? So Manan, your views on that, quick views on that before I move to the others.
So again, this might be different for the technology sector, but technology sector has been gender agnostic to a large extent. And I speak from my experience from startups and established companies both. It is your choice. Okay, if you want to give a couple of years to your kid immediately after your break and want to come back into the stream, the skill set is so rare that no company can ignore this aspect of the workforce. Have we become more inclusive? Yes, to some extent, but that is if I agree with the fact that we were not inclusive earlier. The product companies and the technology companies, like I said earlier, are geo-agnostic. You can be in Sri Lanka, for that matter, and be working for a company in India, giving them top quality code. Let's talk about the dropout rate. I take pride in being part of an organization where the retention rates of the female employees across all age groups beat the market. Okay. And how have we been able to create it? There is only one mantra for that. It's flexibility. Work does not mean that a mother has to stay away from the kids when they need her. Work does not mean that, for that matter, being gender agnostic, a father has to be away on the day of inoculation and the subsequent day when the pain is more for the kid. We are looking at a gender agnostic and inclusive aspect of work. And I think this pandemic has hastened that. Okay, I'll be very frank and open here. In my house, gender equality is more than it was 6 months back. Okay, it has done that to our household, and it is a matter of the companies bracing up to this new reality at the earliest and wrapping themselves around it to the extent possible. So yeah, no question, and women workforce is always welcome with open arms here in the technology sector. We don't differentiate on that count. We're talking about the brain here, and no reason to believe that one gender has more of it than the other. So simple answer, yes, we were open earlier, we are open now. And that's how it will continue to be. We'll continue becoming more inclusive. The idea is simple. Diversity is good for innovation. Diverse companies innovate more. And that's because they have the sample set to look at the same problem from different angles and bring in solutions from multiple angles to the same problem. Only a short-sighted company would try to shut that opportunity out, be it in the US or be it in India. Does that answer your question?
Manan has said all the right things. But we don't know whether all the right things actually get practiced across the world. Like, what you said is right, but I think that the reason that it is still continues to be such a debate worldwide and not just India, is because the facts in effect are glaringly contrary to what we know is right. Like, if you look at the mathematics of it and the logic of it, there are enough data to prove that improving women workforce participation and having more women at workplace actually can improve our GDP contribution dramatically. But still there are challenges, and some of those challenges are societal challenges, some of them are challenges in terms of the way infrastructure plays out. And hence my question, because the debate which is right now going around is that while work from home can create more opportunities for women because it takes care of women's need for flexibility, it takes care of the usual challenges of distance, which came in the way of women going and working wherever they could have, safety, harassment, all of that can be taken care of. But then there are other challenges which have come out, and let me just share with you some of those. One challenge is that at least when you were coming to office and work, right, you could separate your responsibilities at work from that at home. Now, because everybody is working from home, your spouses, your children, everybody's at home, the division of labor at home is not working out. And there are data points which are suggesting that during COVID, many women actually came forward to quit because they were not able to balance the expectations that were there of them at home with the work pressure. And hence, typically it is the women who make these choices where usually they are the ones who let go of work. And these are statistics I'm talking about. I want now the all of you, Madhura, Niyathi, Garima, to come in and weigh in. How does bringing your organizational perspective to this? And I know that some of you are working in sectors which are more male-oriented. Some of you are in sectors where there are more women, dependencies women. But just overall, what are your comments and thoughts on this? Do you think, and another piece of data, I'm a data junkie, sorry, which has come in is that because of the job losses, and it's a recent data, the job losses studies that have been done actually suggest that more women have lost jobs during COVID than men. Your thoughts on this? Madhura, why don't you start first?
What I have observed is that the problem is not with skill. It's not that there are datas, but if you just see a fresh batch of college pass outs, you'll see that equal women and men are passing out. So the skill is there. The problem happens when the women come to their millennial age in the mid, as you said, the mid management stage is then when they enter parenthood and they have to compromise on their goals versus the male counterparts. They keep proceeding with their career goals. My problem, or the problem in this scenario, is I feel the mentality that being a parent is primarily a woman's job. The concept of being a parent is primarily a woman's job. So the changes that we need here is that, yes, the maternity is needed for a woman to overcome her physical stress. But post that, if the men are also allowed to pitch in, have more flexible way of work so that they can pitch into their parental duties, then I think the level would be equalized, because women have that same hunger as men to prove themselves, prove their skills at work. But the problem is that they are perceived as the main parent who have to bring up their child in the workforce also, in the workplaces also. Now, with work from home happening more or less like in 100% level in this COVID situation, I feel that yes, women have lost a lot of jobs, but it has also destigmatized work from home. It has actually taken out the stigma of work from home being easy for people, that they have it easy for people who are sitting back at home and doing it. We need to look at performance matrices tailored to work from home and evaluate their performance accordingly, so that people do not have that illusion that working from home is easy. Arey, wo to ghar se kaam kar raha hai. It is not that. So people have actually got the taste. And I feel this will, though there is a lot of job losses happening, but in the long run, I think this will help us out in the long run, being a woman myself.
Okay, Garima, can I bring you in on this? Tell us what's the impact on women and their employment opportunities? What's the impact?
Ritu, our industry is very different. So as a totality, that healthcare industry is actually having a lot of women at every stage. It's not only the junior level. At the management level also, you will find a lot of females there. So I have to generally say that ours is a female oriented industry. My CEOs, when we sit and all that, they always say that I'm surrounded by the females. So we have this liberty to say that we are a female oriented industry. But yes, there are the few challenges which is created by the COVID. So like facilities like the crush was not available. So, so initially a lot of females used to drop their child at daycare centers and they come to the work. Now that option is not available. And that is a time when they find difficult to come to the work, right? So these are the few challenges even we have encountered. And only thing which we can do for them is giving them the flexibility of the shift. We are 24 bar work industry. So for us, giving that shift change was possible. So as and when we found, these are the challenges, we give them the flexible option. So I think these are the only area where we see that female employees coming to us and they said that they are finding it difficult. Otherwise, as a totality, I have not seen this problem coming to our industry.
Okay. Niyathi, what about you?
Ritu, just kind of adding on to the numbers that you just presented, right? Yes, it's a known truth. About 39.4% women lost jobs due to COVID compared to the 28.4% of men who've lost jobs. And even if you see data globally, the recent Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation published that in a developed economy like the US, right? It's going to take another 150 years to achieve gender equality at all levels. I mean, those are the kind of facts and figures that are blaringly, evident to all of us. But having said that, I completely concur with some of the views that are present here, in the sense that COVID as a pandemic, yes, shifted us fundamentally, but that also meant that women have been overloaded with work, whether it is managing their personal as well as professional careers, being working from home. Now, how do you kind of get out of that vicious chain? Unfortunately, it's not going to be easy unless there is a very, very strong support from organizations which can give flexible women policies, organizations which understand that for women, whether we like it or not, occupy that huge amount of workload at home, as well as balancing career opportunities. For me, it's a blaring example. I haven't signed up for homeschooling my 2 children, but here they are, working with me while I'm doing this call with all of you here. So that's the reality of life these days. But having said that, some things that really work in organizations, and I can proudly say that for mine, out of the 7 women directors, or out of the 7 directors that are there on board today, 3 of them are women in Premier Energies. We have an all-women shift in a traditional manufacturing setup, which has never, which was mostly male-dominated work is what you think of when you think of manufacturing. But the most productive shift that we have is an all-women shift, and who also come in the night. But then the organization also does its support. We ensure that there is the safety is taken care of. There's transport available. Women are dropped off at their doorsteps. There is a women, security guard present on that transport. So these things, they have to go hand in hand. You cannot escape from reality. Yes, it is difficult to hold on to that women workforce. Having, even the best of policies will not help. But then, that's probably a pessimistic way of looking at things. But then organizations now have tried to kind of combat that. We are making small steps towards that, but the road ahead is quite winding and quite long.
Great. I think we know that the challenges for women at work are not limited to COVID. I think obviously it is a much, much broader issue, but some of the COVID impact on women have been very fascinating and shocking. And that's why I think it was important to bring up. I think the other thing which has been doing the rounds, and each one of you again must have been impacted differently by it. The issue about reverse migration. Now, when India is a country which is dependent on migrant labor in both categories, in mind workers as well as hand workers, right? Like Bangalore, I consider myself a migrant worker in Bangalore, right? Because I don't belong to Bangalore. And so, but I probably figure in the mind worker category. And hence, the way I would respond to COVID obviously is very different from the way the hand workers have responded to COVID. And I think enough has been written and spoken about it. I just wanted to get your perspective that how have your businesses gotten impacted because of this? I will start with you, Manan. Your impact is different. Your impact is that you have a lot of mind workers who are coming from different parts to probably work uh, uh, in a Bangalore or in a Pune or wherever, right? But the point is that did you see when the work from home environment became a reality? Did you see a lot of your mind workers relocating back to wherever they came from, and did it have any impact in to your business, and is there any plan to get them back, or for you it's okay? I'm assuming I know the answer, but yet I'd like to hear from you, Manan.
Right. So Ritu, we encouraged bachelors and spinsters who were here alone, away from their families, to go back to their natives. Okay, because beyond a time, if you are in a PG accommodation and all the other rooms have been emptied, it becomes a very scary scenario. Okay, emotionally speaking. So we have tried to create the space for them without any hassles, that they move out wherever required. We have given them the IT assets required to create that kind of a mobility on their part without impacting the productivity. And productivity wise, there is nothing to complain about. In fact, there is everything to be thankful about. Productivity seems to have gone up considerably. And I'm sure that it is at a cost. And that cost is something that we have been focusing to minimize. We don't want employees to be there with their family and not being able to talk to them. So we have been mindful. We have not taken their personal time for granted whenever it has been given to us. We have been thankful for it, but at the same time, we have tried to create the space so that they can make up for the time that they have lost on account of working for us. One thing that helped them, in fact, the remote workers and the workers who were not from this location, one thing which has helped them is us taking a proactive call that we will not return to work for an indefinite period of time. We called it out very clearly without making it for the initial for the initial 3 months. We are doing it 1 month at a time. Work from home has been extended by 1 more month, 1 more month, 1 more month. But the moment we understood that this was not the right way to engage with them, we called it out that we are closed indefinitely at the office front. And whenever we open, we are going to give you a couple of weeks time to have your things in order. Even there, if you feel that you need more time, we are going to create that space for you on a one-on-one basis. So we have never taken it for granted. We are thankful for whatever work that is coming our way. At the same time, we have tried to ensure that they are able to put in their best effort, even remotely. Like I said, in our case, the manager does not have to have a camera on the employee, okay, or keep a track of how many key logs happened or how many words were typed. Okay, the result is to be seen when the outcome is presented. Okay, in terms of a submitted code. So that has obviously helped us. But yeah, we would like to come back to work, but we have very clearly told our employees that we would be happy to be the last ones in office if that ensures their safety. And for now, what it looks like, safety is either a vaccine or a cure. And we are quite some distance away from both of these. So we have created that space, and we have told our employees that, listen, your health and your family members' safekeeping is the primary important thing for us. As long as that is taken care of, all the other things can be managed, right? But it has thrown up certain other opportunities that traditionally companies have not looked at. If you are a 200-member staff, you would get office space for 200 members. right? That has changed. It has been flipped on its head today. A 200-member staff means that you need office space for around 80, and if you are managing the others properly, remotely, that's a cost saving. And given where the real estate rates are right now, try and put it into an equation. Net, you are going to emerge green on your bottom line. So you have to look at all those things, and yeah, thankfulness, expressing that you are thankful for it to your employees goes a long way in creating that thing. COVID is not a mind problem; it is a heart problem. Okay, it is a problem of the heart. Are you feeling the right emotions? Are you feeling the right amount of empathy for your employees? And are you communicating? Are you letting them know that you love them? Okay. That is what is missing in most of the companies, and that is what we have been working on. During the last three and a half months, my HR team members have been reaching out, picking up the phone, reaching out to employees and talking to them, just having a conversation. How's your cat? How's your dog? Okay. How are your kids? How do you make? How are the house supplies going on? How do you manage it? A heart-to-heart conversation, and that's in most of the cases that's what they need. So I'm not for a mushy kind of an HR function. I am also a data savient and data file, as you are, Ritu. But human resources has to be the heart of the organization. Have you got the feeling right? That's what it's. And have you got the finger on the pulse?
Sure.
Those are the important aspects.
Sure, absolutely. Totally understand that. I mean, but I think what happened is that a few days back, my Kent RO system collapsed. And in Bangalore, that RO is your lifeline, right? I mean, given that the quality of water can always be questionable. I mean, if that your RO is not working, so maybe for a few days I could get away with my Bisleri water bottles being going and purchasing the Bisleri water bottles, but it's not a long-term solution. And it finally came to the point that I had to call Kent customer service and ask for a servicing guy to come. Then of course I bombarded the servicing guy with a flurry of questions. I hope you don't have fever. I hope you are looking after yourself, sanitize. Something he said was quite, kind of was a, wake up call for me. He said, ma'am, aapse zyada mujhe apna chinta hai. So the point is that we do have need in our lives, by the way, where that one RO servicing guy needs to come to my house. That guy's job cannot be done from home.
Right. Right.
88% of the work that currently happens in this country cannot be done.
In that particular case, Ritu, I hope you thanked him and his family members, and I also hope that the Kent management thanked him in a meaningful manner.
I think the question here on the point of reverse migration is that this guy, by the way, in Bangalore, he was servicing me in Bangalore, but he was from UP, by the way.
Right.
Which means that it was an employment for him, and which means that Kent must have done something to be able to keep that guy continuing to work in Bangalore in current situation. But what about your thoughts on this? Like, what do people do? Like, for example, each one of you, Niyathi, for example, in your business, I'm sure you're dependent on a lot of migrant workers. How did you counter this situation? What impact it had on you? And what are you planning to do going forward?
Yeah, so I was just thinking, we are a manufacturing setup. We need people. Even during the of course, we did close down operations in the month of March when the lockdown was announced and when we were going through this entire pandemic. But factory had to be opened at some point in time. We had to have workers coming in because we couldn't stall our production. While the HO folks still had the flexibility to work from home, critical people coming in, factory workers had to come in. And fortunately for us, the factory that is located in Telangana, we're surrounded by villages. So most of our population or the workers come in from those villages. So we're not really affected by the migrant exodus as such. But recruitment of these folks, even in the best of days, is difficult. And then getting them to factory in such a scenario was a challenge. Contractors were not ready, or even, they were asking for extra or double the wages because of the whole uncertainty looming on our heads. But in a way, yes, like I said, we were fortunate because we had these people, we had these villages around, and we didn't really get affected. But one thing that we kind of put in place is reaching out to ITI colleges in and around Telangana, and then trying to build that pipeline, because manufacturing, that's our biggest workforce. ITI diploma, vocational plumbers, electricians, that's where we need. And one very, very strong action that we took was reaching out to these principals, reaching out to Skill India, and making sure that we had these enough students who were then looking at passing out in the next few months or so. How can we tap them and then get them into the workforce? I think that was one thing that we did. And second thing is, even when we are talking to these multiple contractors, how do we then tell them that, the factory is safe, you can come back to work? Third thing is, again, women, because with so many questions, children being associated, and then having the creche, how do you then make sure that all these things are up to a certain standard to make sure that, these worker community is taken care of, and they don't feel like, okay, the factory is opening and there's nobody there. So these were like extremely real-time challenges that we face even now. Of course, things are much for the better, but, operating directly on the other spectrum from where Manan operates, right?
I understand. The Manans is a different set of maybe opportunities and challenges, but that's why this discussion becomes interesting.
Absolutely. So it's really interesting to know. And I think Manan's point of view, I can really appreciate from the HO point of view, where young people, critical functions, procurement, HR, who can all pick up their laptops and connect. But what about the factory, which is directly, the migrant population, though doesn't really affect us at the moment. But yes, I know the challenges that are there looming around us.
Yeah, and taking cue from what Manan shared, finally, it is our job to be able to communicate and show our empathy with the different kinds of employees in ways they understand. So the way you will show empathy with a mind worker is very different from the way you have to show empathy with a hand worker. I guess that's very clear to us. Madhura, you also are from the traditional manufacturing organization, and I'm assuming even you have dependencies on migrant workforce.
Very true.
So what happened during COVID? Did you get impacted, and what are you planning in terms of the way forward?
So the ironical part is that it took a pandemic for us to understand the value of a migrant worker. What we felt that how the organization treated their workers during this COVID situation brands the business's employability for years to come. How you have treated them. So the organization ensured that they did not provide any knee-jerk reactive responses. Communication regarding any sort of cost cutting was made with utmost transparency and in an objective manner, so that they understand that why something is done, what impact it will lead. And most importantly, we safeguarded the basic requirement of our workforce, which I feel will help us emerge better from this crisis. Now, we have different kinds of migrant workers. We have a mix of like the white collar sales people, like people like it can be like a Kolkata employee working in a Bihar territory, coming back and not being able to go back to its territory for its sales activities. So what we did was we regularly created cross-functional skills so that the guy who is there in Bihar, maybe it's the product that a customer raised a query about that did not, the guy did not have the skill of that, but we created that skill in him so that he could at least address and keep the customer retained with us. And as far as the migrant workers in our factories are concerned, they went back. The business was like on its knees, and we could understand that it is not possible to work without them. We have been exploring, we have explored on staggered work shifts where these people we have provided staying, fooding, lodging inside the factory so that they don't have to go out and forage for food and they are in a safe environment. CG has a lot of CSR activities happening. We plan on resuming those. And that's the way we are doing it currently. And I think it is giving us a good result.
Thanks so
on
much.
bouncing back.
Thanks, Madhura. Garima, you touched upon in between the point that a lot of your nurses come from Kerala, and I'm sure there will be other staff also who
Right.
come from outside of the state. And we all have encountered the challenges they face because of PGs telling them to vacate and so on and so forth. So how did you manage? Because that compelling pressure, the pressure from family, pressure from neighbors, I'm sure was there on your employees as well. So did you see an exodus? Did you also have something like problem like that? And how are you dealing with it now?
So yeah, PG is definitely not an issue because we have our own in-house PG. So all our nurses stays there. Few of the technicians was staying outside in a different PGs, and when the problem arise, we have given them the option to join our PG. So that way we have actually managed. For us, the problem started when the lockdown opened up. So when the lockdown was there, nobody was able to go anywhere, and the workforce was available. The moment the lockdown opened up and people wants to go back to their hometown, their parents was calling them, they were getting scared, they want to meet the child, and the quarantining rule. So if you have to go to Kerala, there is a 21 days of quarantine. So you just, even if you want to go for 2 days, you have to actually apply for a month old leave, because you will go there, you will quarantine there, then you will come back, you will again quarantine in Bangalore. So those kind of leaves was difficult to manage. So what we did it, we was constantly communicating with the people. The line managers the leaves were planned in advance. Thankfully our employee was very good because they understand the patient need. So many of them have not gone back, but there are the few who wanted to go back. Recruitment becomes a challenge because now nobody is coming. Nobody is coming from Kerala or any other state. So we have completely changed our strategy of recruitment. We have completely gone to the local recruitment. Anybody who's available in the Bangalore and can join us. For us, the major challenge here comes up. What happened? Because of the COVID, a lot of new COVID hospitals have started, and the staff have gone back. So suddenly the demand is high and supply is less of the manpower. Okay? And in that scenario, what is only working for us, rather than getting a new people, how to retain our old people. So the new allowances, we have announced a new hardship allowances for them, how to retain them, how to provide the best infrastructure, best atmosphere, so that they should not leave us. Retention is the key which we are working on right now, because recruitment is yet a challenge for us.
Thank you very much. I think we will move on. We already overshot the time. We will do the quick round of rapid fire. Again, like I said, please stick to yes, no, or an answer so that we can optimize the time available. I think I shall start with you, Garima. When do you think we will go back to pre-COVID levels of growth in this country?
Not less than 1 year.
Okay. And where would there be lesser jobs in the next 12 months?
Not in healthcare, definitely.
Of course, definitely. Would average wages go down during in the next few months, next few quarters?
In healthcare, I'm expecting wages will increase because suddenly the demand is increasing. So you have to come up with a new wage structure for healthcare.
Interesting. Also, would organization develop an antibiotic reaction to anything permanent in nature? Permanent office spaces, permanent employees, permanent wage structures, essentially fixed in nature. Do you think that they will
What we realize now, what was happening into healthcare, any which ways our fixed cost structure is very high, very, very high. So what we realize in this COVID, that we have to actually minimize our fixed cost structure, and we have to go on the variable pay model more. We have to, empanel a lot of locums, the freelancers available, wherever in whichever the job and role you can fit in. You have to actually reduce your fixed cost and go more for the variable cost.
I don't know how relevant is this next question, but I'll still ask. How many of your, no, actually for you, it might be relevant. How many of your migrant workers have left during COVID? Any percentage?
About, I am losing almost 4 to 5% every month. Every
Okay.
month. Yeah.
So
It is last 3 months, I would say that. It doesn't impacted us in the month of March, April, and May, but yes, June, July, August numbers are high.
And what percentage of your workforce would be permanently working from home here on?
Zero.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, we'll move to Manan. Manan, what do you think? When do you think we'll go back to pre-COVID level of growth?
See, I think the growth has to be looked through a different lens now. There's a context of self-sufficiency that has been brought in today. Our dependency on external markets has to reduce. I would say that I'm not looking at this from a COVID, pre-COVID, or post-COVID kind of a standpoint at all. I'm looking at it from a standpoint of global dependency versus self-sufficiency. And I put a timeline of around 5 years to start seeing fruits. COVID impact, I think it's going to be reversed pretty soon, the moment a vaccine or a cure is out there. Because India is a welfare republic, okay? And likelihood of the pricing being within the reach of the commoners is more. So I'm pretty hopeful that things will return to status quo soon after the vaccine gets launched.
Sure. So would there be less jobs in the next 12 months?
I think more. I think sectors that have been suppressed will bounce back in the next 2 years. So I think overall, COVID has actually been a mutation of the job world, and I think we're going to survive and we're going to do well. That's what my gut feel is.
Would average wages go down in the next few quarters?
In the short run, maybe. In the short run, but I think recovery will set in by second half of next year.
Would organization have an antibiotic reaction to anything fixed?
See, everything is contextual, and now in this scenario, context has become everything. What we are looking for is a lightweight model that allows us enough flexibility. Not that we are complaining about the flexibility that we have today, but business continuity would obviously become a concern going forward, and we are going to take some steps to cover that aspect.
Sure. And how many of your migrant workforce?
Nobody left the work. They might have left Hyderabad, but nobody left the work.
Excellent. What percentage of your workforce will be permanently working from home?
Yeah, that's out there to discuss. I think once the dust has settled on this, we are going to reassess and we're going to take a decision then. It would be premature to make that statement right now.
Sure. Niyathi, over to you. When do you think we'll go back to pre-COVID level of growth?
I think recovery is not static. It's going to continue. So I would estimate anything between 1 to 5 years. But again, it's going to be a new normal. It's not going to be business as usual.
Okay. Would there be lesser jobs in the next 12 months in India?
No, I think I agree with Manan. There would be sectors which are going to go bullish, and there will be some jobs which will kind of see an upswing.
Average wages, are they going to go down in the next few quarters?
Few for the short run, yes, because of certain labor law complications and new regulations. But after that, it'll pick up.
And do you think organization will now have increasingly more antibiotic reaction towards anything permanent or fixed in nature, fixed offices, fixed real estate, people, employees? fixed pay and so on and so forth?
For an organization such as ours, yes, we will continue to have our factory. I cannot uproot it and move it somewhere else. So certain fixed things will continue to be there. But I think we will be looking at everything with a fresh lens.
Sure. How many of your migrant workers left the organization over the last few months?
Very less, because like I said, we were fortunately surrounded by villages where we had tons of soil coming in. So less than 5-6%.
And again, the last question is, what percentage of your workforce will permanently work from home?
0. We are a traditional organization. We would come back to work at some point in time.
Right. Madhura, you go next. When do we go back to pre-COVID level of growth? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Pre-COVID, or like as the others said, it will not be the same, but I don't see before the next financial year.
And would there be lesser jobs in the next 12 months?
For the next coming quarter, there would be the trend of the status quo would continue, but I think by January next year, we should have a boom. There should be we should have a higher increase in production, and we should be hiring more.
Okay. Would average wages go down in the next few quarters?
I believe this year has been difficult, very difficult for a lot of industries related to wages. Companies have shown a very conservative approach, and this will continue, but I think that would be compensated. It will be compensated by next fiscal year.
And again, do you think there will be lesser dependencies on fixed cost and more variabilization happening?
As Niyathi said, factories, no, it would sustain, but we will definitely look at much more reducing our process cost and fixed assets in our headquarters, sales offices, other places where we can afford a new way of working.
Interesting. How many of your guest workers left during COVID time? How many? How much of your workforce will permanently work from home? Yours is also a traditional sector.
We are hoping that we will introduce some very good policies once this gets over, but it's very difficult to say. But we are planning on having this as a perk and as an attractant for millennial workers coming to manufacturing companies.
Perfect. I think that's we've come to the end of this. There are some questions which have come in, and Advait, Datta Gupta, I know you've been writing quite a few questions, and trust me, I've gone through all of them, but I don't think most of your questions are in the nature of comments, and they're very valid. Honestly, I don't think anybody knows why private technical institutes are closed when liquor shops are open. I'm assuming that there are brains out there who makes these decisions and they've thought it through. The questions on job opportunities, well, the job opportunities are available in certain sectors. So if you are an aspirant, you can look at e-commerce as one sector. You can look at, there are some requirements coming up in essential retail. There are e-grocers who are currently hiring. Healthcare is hiring. So do focus your energies and do visit us on TeamLease.com. All the jobs are available and posted out there. And if you are somebody who's on the technical side, because of the recently announced PLC scheme, a lot of large-scale manufacturing companies have come forth and have opened up thousands of requirements. So please, again, watch out for those jobs which are available on our websites. I think all the questions that you all have raised are valid, but I think for the paucity of time, I would have to relieve my panelists because they have a day job as well. And in any case, they have done us all a huge favor by spending the last hour or so in this discussion. It's been extremely exciting, and I hope we've all learned collectively. This discussion can never end. It's always left midway because there's so much to cover and discuss. So thank you, Manan, Garima, Niyathi, and Madhura for joining in. And I would request, any one of you have questions, I mean, please do write in to us because all your questions we would love to address one-on-one as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
members.
Bye.